Welcome to another Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. Today's video is FtoC, or as I like to call it, Fahrenheit to Celsius, There and Back Again by Bilbo Baggins. By me. No, never mind. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to convert temperatures from Fahrenheit to Celsius and vice versa in Microsoft Access. Today's question comes from Jade in Redwood City, California, one of my Platinum members. Jade says, I get temperature readings in Fahrenheit, and I have to enter those into my database and convert them over to Celsius for one of my vendors. I know the formula for conversion, but I'm having a hard time figuring out how to store that in my database. Please help. Now, Jade sent me some screenshots of what she's working on, and she's trying to actually do the conversion and store the converted value in her table, which you don't have to do. One of my rules is that if a value can be calculated, you generally should calculate it. For example, an order total, right? You got a bunch of items on an order, you add those all up, and then you have an order total. But that number can always be calculated by the items on the order. So there's no need to store that value in the table. There are some exceptions. Yes, later on you can store that for speed and all that, but generally 99% of the time, if you've got a value that can be calculated, just calculate it. Calculate it on the fly whenever you need it, and there's no need to store both the Fahrenheit and the Celsius values in your table. So store one, whichever one you want, store the Fahrenheit, and then when you need Celsius, just calculate it. Okay? And again, yeah, there are exceptions to every rule, but this is the general rule. All right, before we get started, if you don't know how to use calculated fields, go watch this video first. I'll show you how to create calculated fields in forms and in queries, which is what we're going to be doing today. And also, if you want to, go watch my video on rounding values, because generally when you're doing Fahrenheit to Celsius conversion, you get really long decimals after there. You get 0.6421. I mean, you can leave them like that if you want to, or if you want to learn how to round things off, go watch this video. These are both free videos. They're on my website. They're on my YouTube channel. There's the link right there. I'll put links down below in the description you can click on, or you can scan this little doohickey right here with your phone, and it'll take you right to my website. All right, first things first, the equation for converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit, though there's two equations, one to go each way, is that. It's basically solve for C or solve for F. Okay? Celsius is, you take Fahrenheit, subtract 32, multiply that by 5 divided by 9. Or 5/9. Don't forget your parentheses here. Remember our order of operations, right? We want the subtraction to go first before this multiplication and division. So we have to put the parentheses there. Going the other way, if you want Fahrenheit and you got Celsius, well, you don't need parentheses because it's C times 9 divided by 5. Order of operations says these go first. And then when that's all done, add 32 to it. Okay? I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I lived there most of my life. And, we'd go over the border a lot up into Canada, and you'd see all the temperatures in Celsius. Oh, it's 20 degrees Celsius. Is that good? Right? And I always had a rule of thumb in my head, which was double it and add 30. Right? So if you got 20, right, double it, that's 40. Add 30, that's 70. It's close enough, right? Close enough for government work. Because 9/5 is basically 2, right? It's basically double it. And then just add 30. So if you got 10 degrees, you double it, it's 20, add 30, it's 50. So it's a little chilly. All right? That's just my little silly rule of thumb. I don't have a rule of thumb to go the other way. I guess subtract 30 and have it, right? Anyhow, let's put that into an Access database. Here I am in my Tech Help free template. This is a free database you can download off my website if you want to, but we're not really going to use it. We're going to create a table, create table design. Let's say we're getting temperature readings in Fahrenheit. We want to store those in our table. All right, so we'll make a reading ID. This will be our reading table, our temperature readings. Right, that's my auto number. Most tables should have an auto number. Well, that's a good rule of thumb, right? All right, now we're going to store the temperature in Fahrenheit, temp F. Could you call it just F? Yeah, you could. Nothing wrong with a single letter field name, but I think this is a little more self-explanatory. Now, what type of value should this be? What data type should this be? Well, we don't want text, right? Because we might want to be able to add these together or calculate an average. So we definitely want one of the number types. So pick number. And then of the number types, there are different field sizes down here. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different ones. There are only two that you have to concern yourself with as a beginner user. Long integer or double. That's it. Don't use decimal, don't use single, don't use integer. You're going to always use long integer and double. Okay, double if you need a floating point value, like 55.6. Okay, if you don't care about that, if all you want are whole numbers, integers, use long integer. Okay, so for this, I'm going to pick double because I want decimal points. I want to be able to put in here 55.2. Okay, I go into a much longer explanation of why you don't need all those other data types in my full access class, so go watch that. Now, if you want to put other information in here, like a timestamp or notes or a location where this temperature was read, all that stuff, put that in here. What you do not want to store in here is your Celsius temperature. You don't need to. You can calculate it on the fly. All right, so I'm just going to put these two things in here for now. We're going to save it. I'm going to call this my reading table. Reading T, primary key, yes. That's my ID field. And there we go. That's all we got. We can put some values in here. Okay, we'll put in here maybe 15, an actual 0. As soon as you type in that 0 there, it'll put a value in. If you don't want a default value, you can turn it off, right? The default value for numbers is 0, but you can get rid of that if you want to. Okay, and if you want to force the user to have to put something in, you can make it required. Just set that to yes. Okay, all right, save it. Come back into here, and then put a few more values in here. We got 100. We got 210. That's a pretty hot day, right? Negative 15.5 and so on. Okay, so there's our table. All right, let's close that. Now let's go make a query to do the calculation to convert to Celsius. Let's go to Create, Query Design. I'm going to bring in my reading table and bring down both the fields here with that star. Okay, now right here is where we put our calculated field. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. Shift F2, that zooms in. All right. We're going to say temp C colon, what's it going to be? Here's where we put our equation. In parentheses, temp F minus 32, close parentheses, times 5 divided by 9. All right. There's our function, our calculation. Not a function, sorry. All right. Let's save it as our reading queue. Go ahead and run it. And, oh, what's all that mean? Well, that just means that we got a really long number in there, so we got to make this column wider. Look at that. Okay. I told you got a whole bunch of, 0.88889. This happens a lot when you convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And this is where you might want to throw the rounding function in there. So go back to Design View. We're going to come back in here. Shift F2. I'm going to zoom in again, and we're going to put round around this whole thing. Round, open parentheses, come to the end key, comma 1. However many decimal points you want to round it off to. Okay, usually 1's good enough unless you're doing like scientifical stuff. And yes, I said scientifical. All right, save it, run it, and that looks a lot better. There you go. Okay, now you can use this anywhere you want. You can use this in forms and reports just by using reading Q. All right, but let me show you another way. Let me show you how to put this directly into a form if you didn't want to put it inside of a query. All right, because some people prefer that. So here's continuous form. This is my continuous form blank template. All right, I'm just going to copy this. Control C, Control V. We're going to call this my reading F. This is just a blank form that I keep in my database so I can use it for classes and make stuff out of it, right? Without having to reinvent the wheel every time. Okay, here's my continuous form. I'm going to open up the properties. We're going to go to the All tab over here, find the record source property. This is what table or query that this form is bound to, where it gets its data from. All right, let's bind it right to the reading table. Just the table for now. Okay, now I can go to add existing fields. You can add fields in directly from here if you want to, or you can just change them over here. I don't think we need to bother with the ID, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay, we're going to take this field, slide it over to the left, and we're going to make this guy, we're going to double click on that. We're going to make this guy's control source our temp F. Okay, and then I'm going to copy and paste that because you should always make the name the same as the control source. Most of the time. We can also put temp F up here. Okay, that's our label. All right, let's save this. I'm going to close it and reopen it just to see what I got. There we go. Looks just like the query data. Let's left align this stuff. I like to have my stuff left aligned, right? Format, align left. Okay. Now, without using the query, we could put the temp Q right in here by just redoing the calculation, right? So I'm going to copy this, copy, paste, and then slide it over here. Okay. And then we can bring that up. Let's open up this guy's properties. And instead of temp F over here, we can put our calculation, right? Which is, I'm going to zoom in for you, Shift F2. It's going to be equals the same thing we did before, right? It's going to be the temp F minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. And if you want to throw the rounding in here, you can throw the rounding in here as well. So round, comma 1, just like that. And that's how you do the calculation directly in a form field. Okay, we'll also copy this. Sometimes I copy them. Sometimes I just cheat and do this. Watch, make this one label bigger and then just hit spacebar a bunch of times and come right here. I think it's easier than messing with a whole bunch of labels. Save it, close it, open it up, and there you go. There's the calculation directly in a form field without having to waste your time with a query. But the query does have some benefits. Let me show you one real quick, just a little sidetrack here. Let's say you want to figure out what the average temperature was, right? Let's copy this and put it down here in the form footer. Okay, now if I come over here to the control source and I say equals average, AVG, that, right? Hit OK, and let's name it, by the way, average temp F. Always give your text boxes a good name. Okay, if I save that, let's close it and reopen it. Look at that. I get the average temperature down here. That looks about right. Right? Design view. Now, what if I try to do the same thing here? Let me copy this one. Copy, paste. All right, this guy's name is what? Oh, I didn't give this one a name. So that's why I always want to give him a good name. This one, let's call it temp C. Okay, that's the name of this field up here. Now, if I come down here and say, give me the average of temp C, right? And let's call the name of it average temp C. Okay, let's save it, close it, and let's look what happens. Look at that, I get errors. Why is that? Because this box down here can't average all these up because they don't exist yet. They don't exist until the form is finished loading, and by that point, the formula can't run. So if you want to use form footer totals or do any calculations on here, the data has to exist in the underlying table or query. It can't just be a form calculated field. Okay, to use these aggregate queries like this. These aggregate functions, average, sum, min, max, all those things. Now there are some things you could do. For example, you could apply the conversion calculation to this field here, because this gives you the average in Fahrenheit, right? You could just convert this guy. And that would look something like this. You could say round the average temp F minus 32 times 5 divided by 9, comma 1, like that, right? And now what we're doing is we're just calculating that average and then rounding it and then putting the calculation on it, right? So now we get that, and it works. Okay. So in other words, we're not averaging these, we're just converting this guy. Or you could put the full function in here and then take the average of that. That's another step you could do. But the easier way to do it is to simply use the query as the source for this form. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take the record source property of the form and we'll pick the reading Q. Okay, now in here, we don't need calculations at all. We can just pick the temp C right from there. See? And now down here, we can say, give me the average of temp C. Why? Because temp C is now a field in the underlying query. So now it'll work. Okay, see that? All right, that's why I personally think that it's handy to put all your calculations in queries. That's just something I've always done. I put very few calculations directly in forms and reports. All right, so that's how you calculate the temperature conversion directly in a query or in a form. And reports work the same way as forms, folks. It's the same thing. Just do it in a query and then pull that field into your report. It's exactly the same. If you want to learn more in the extended cut for the members, we're going to use a little VBA for the developers. We're going to make two functions, a Fahrenheit to Celsius and a Celsius to Fahrenheit. That way we can just use those functions everywhere in our database and not worry about having to remember calculations and put calculations in places and things with molecular structures and moving parts and all that. We'll just say FtoC CtoF, and it'll give us a temp at C back. And I'll stick this stuff in the code vault for the gold members. But this is all covered in the extended cut. Silver members and up get access to all of my extended cut videos. Gold members get to download these templates, and they get the code vault, and they get expert level classes, and so much more. So check it out. But that is going to be your tech help video for today. I hope you learned something, my friends. Live long and prosper. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and post any comments you may have below. I do try to read and answer all of them as soon as I can. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. Click the bell icon and select all to receive notifications when new videos are posted. Want to learn more? Click the Show More link below the video to find additional resources and links. YouTube does a pretty good job of hiding it. It's right down there. See this part of the description here, right? The name, the video's up here. There's a little Show More down there, right down the bottom. It's kind of hard to find. But once you click on that, you'll see a list of other videos, additional information related to the current topic, free lessons, and lots more. And YouTube no longer sends out email notifications when new videos are posted like they used to do. But if you'd like to get an email every time I post a new video, click on the link to join my mailing list. And you can pick how frequently to get emails from me, either as they happen, daily, weekly, or monthly. Now, if you'd like to become a paid member of my channel and receive all kinds of awesome perks, click on the Join button. You'll see a list of all the different membership levels that are available, each with its own special perks, including my extended cut videos, access to my code vault, lots of VBA source code in there, template downloads, and lots more. I'll talk more about these perks at the end of the video. Even if you don't want to commit to becoming a paid member and you'd like to help support my work, please feel free to click on the tip jar link. Your patronage is greatly appreciated and will help keep these free videos coming. I got some puppies to feed. But don't worry, no matter what, these free tech help videos are going to keep coming. As long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making more, and they'll always be free. Now, if you really want to learn Access and you haven't tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, and more. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? The whole thing, free, 4 hours. Go watch it. And okay, a lot of you have told me that you don't have time to sit through a 4-hour course. So I do now have a quicker Microsoft Access for Beginners video that covers all the basics faster in about 30 minutes. And no, I didn't just put the video on fast forward. But I'll put a link to this down below as well. Now, if you like level 1, level 2 is just $1. That's it, $1. And that's another whole 90-minute course. Level 2 is also free for paid members of any level, including supporters. So if you're a member, go watch level 2. It's free. Okay, want to get your question answered in a video just like this one? Visit my Tech Help page and send me your question there. Members get priority, of course. While I do try to read and respond to all of the comments posted below in the comments section, I only have time to go through them briefly a couple of times a month, and sometimes I get thousands of them. So send me your question here on the Tech Help page, and you'll have a better chance of getting it answered. And while you're on my website, be sure to stop by my Access forum. We've got lots of lively conversations about Microsoft Access and other topics. I have a fantastic group of moderators who help me answer questions. Shout out to Alex, Kevin, Scott, Adam, John, Dan, Juan, and everybody else who helps out on the site. I appreciate everything you do. I couldn't do it without you. Be sure to follow my blog, find me on Twitter, and of course on YouTube. Yeah, I'm on Facebook too, but I don't like Facebook. Don't get me started. Now, let's talk more about those member perks if you do decide to join as a paid member. There are different levels: silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. Silver members and up get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, one free beginner class every month, and some other perks. Gold members get all the previous perks plus access to download the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos, plus access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions that I use, the code that I build in most of the videos. You'll also get higher priority if you do submit any tech help questions. Now, answers are never guaranteed, but you do go higher in the list for me to read them. And if I like your question, you got a good chance of it being answered. You'll also get one free expert level class each month after you've finished the beginner series. Platinum members get all the previous perks plus even higher priority for tech help questions. You get access to all of my full beginner level courses for every subject. And I cover lots of different subjects like Word, Excel, VBA, ASP, lots of different stuff, not just Access. These are the full-length courses found on my website. You get all the beginner ones. In addition, once you finish the expert classes, you get one free developer class per month. So lots of training. And finally, you can also become a Diamond sponsor. You'll have your name or your company name listed on a sponsors page that will be shown on each video as long as you're a sponsor. You'll get a shout out in the video and a link to your website or product in the text below the video and on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you again soon.